On the anvil of war are the strong tempered, and the weak made to perish. Thus are men's souls tested, as metal in the forge's fire.
The angels of death are regarded as the Emperor's will made manifest, descending from the heavens onto the bleakest of battlefields to fell the enemies of humanity in its hours of greatest need. Gleaming in their panoplies of war, they are resplendent reminders to the servants of the Imperium that they shall be protected from the darkness. Yet of all the chapters of the Space Marines, there is one above all that protects the weak and embodies the mercy of the Emperor. The 18th Legion of the Adeptus Astartes, the Salamanders. Known during the Unification Wars as the Dragon Warriors, the 18th Legion, like all of the proto-legions of the Adeptus Astartes, would be secluded from their peers, particularly the Dragon Warriors and their so-called trefoil kin of the 6th and 20th Legions. Their deeds and battle honors obscured from history, the 18th Legion, due to their secretive origins, would be regarded with suspicion by the other legions, garnering a reputation with their first engagement at the assault of the Tempest Galleries during 800 M30. The Dragon Warriors would achieve a near impossible victory alone against all odds of survival. Suffering incredible losses and reducing their number from over 20,000 Astartes to as little as 1,000 battle brothers, the Dragon Warriors would secure a reputation as bloodied yet glorious and honorable combatants. Rapidly replenishing their numbers, the Dragon Warriors would be supplied with new war gear as the favored sons of the newly born Imperium, yet be stalled in taking part in the many expeditions of the early days of the Great Crusade. Rarely serving as a legion, the 18th would be split into smaller battalions to reinforce battle groups across the Imperium, often assigned to crucial engagements against Space Hulks or Xenos raiding parties behind the lines of the advancing waves of forces of the Crusade. Cooperating closely with human military forces as the only Space Marines in service, the Dragon Warriors would brave the most hazardous and deadly theaters of war, earning the Legion many accolades as saviors, bastions of hope, and the personification of the Emperor's protection and grace. Yet as a result of their conflicts, the Legion would never replenish to its full strength akin to the standards of the other legions. Their survival and continuation as a legion, uncertain, during their 4th decade of service, until the return of their Primarch, Vulcan. Found on the death world of Nocturne, Vulcan would not be reunited with his legion for many years. Tutored by the Emperor himself, the Primarch of the 18th Legion would be tempered with the ruler of mankind's boundless wisdom, and in the hour of his legion's greatest need, he would be returned to them. On the cluster of planets near the Taurus division, the 18th Legion of 19,000 Astartes would be besieged by a horde of millions of the Orc Xenos. Facing overwhelming odds, the Dragon Warriors would be under the command of their chapter master, Cassian Vaughn. Evacuating the civilian populations of the system, the 18th Legion would suffer terrible losses for their compassion. Refusing to stand idle whilst his sons perished, Vulcan would aid his legion alongside 3,000 initiates from his homeworld of Nocturne. Spurring the Dragon Warriors' survivors, Vulcan would lead the counterattack and purge the Xenos from the system. The two halves of the Legion would unite in the aftermath of the battle, with Vulcan revealing himself to his long-lost sons. The Dragon Warriors would kneel before their Genefather, yet be bid to stand by Vulcan, declaring that all of his sons were equals, for Vulcan would not be regarded as some petty king demanding obedience. Instead, Vulcan would kneel before his legion to honor the lives that had been lost as payment to protect the innocents that had fled the system. Henceforth, the legion would be remade under the tutelage of their Primarch. These were Dragon Warriors no longer. The 18th would now bear a different name, a name derived from their Primarch's homeworld of Nocturne, the Salamanders. Divided into 7 great companies led by a Lord Commander or Protector born from each of Nocturne's settlements, the Salamanders would field 34 companies during the Great Crusade. Always acknowledged as the smallest in number amongst all of the legions of Adeptus Astartes, the Salamanders would compensate for their scale by implementing new battle doctrines and strategies. Encouraging self-sufficiency and autonomy, Vulcan would enable each settlement to foster their own cultural traditions within their companies. further buttressing the Legion's relationships to their human counterparts within their lands. Yet with the dawn of a new age for the Salamanders, a new darker future would begin with the embers of betrayal and heresy. Called to face the traitor Warmaster, Horus Lupercal, the Salamanders would accompany the Iron Hands and Ravenguard legions to prevent the rebellion of the traitor Astartes and their Primarchs from growing in number. Sent as the spear tip to crush the 4 traitor legions of the Death Guard, World Eaters, Emperor's Children, and Sons of Horus, the Loyalists would crush the rebellion with the amassed strength of 7 legions. Soon to be reinforced by the Iron Warriors, Night Lords, Word Bearers, and Alpha Legion. However, the Loyalist legions would be betrayed by their allies during the Dropside Massacre of Istvan V, with the Salamanders losing their Primarch and being broken under the heel of the traitors. Shattered into fragments of their newly rebuilt glory, the 18th Legion and its fellow fractured legionaries would retreat from the massacre, with first captain of the Salamanders, Artellus Numion, leading the scattered forces of his legion to safety. Finding shelter on the ultramarine planet of Macragge, the Salamanders would bear the shame of their defeat and loss of their Primarch as the galaxy would be split in 2. Imperium Secundus would be formed by Rabute Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, with Ultramar as the newly formed contingent empire should the Imperium fall to the wrath of the traitors. Yet in their darkest hour, the Salamanders would find a sliver of hope with the return of their Primarch, Vulcan. Vulcan's return to his legion would be as much a gift as an omen. His mind and body broken, the legion's survival would fall to Artellus Numion to forge a path to redemption. Venturing to their homeworld of Nocturne, Numion would sacrifice his own life to reawaken his Primarch and renew the fire within his legion. Primarch Vulcan would journey to Holy Terror to aid in its defense, leaving his Salamanders to independently face their duty in defending the Imperium. Allying themselves with their battle-forged brothers of the Iron Hands and Ravenguard, the Salamanders would conduct guerrilla war strikes against the traitor forces until the end of the Horus Heresy, reforging their legion in the subsequent millennia to face the darkness alone until their Primarch should return to them. Too few in number to be divided into successor chapters, the Salamanders would rebuild, their numbers able to bear new chapters at the dawn of the 42nd millennium with the introduction of the Primaris Space Marines into their ranks. Though some mysterious chapters bear the heraldry of the 18th Legion, their origins likely born from stockpiles of the Salamander's gene seed. Regardless of their lackluster numbers, the Salamanders have grown synonymous with the Legion's reputations as true bulwarks against the ruinous powers. Their compassion for humanity and unbreakable duty to preserve the will of the Emperor, known across the Imperium. For it is believed by the Salamanders chapter that one day their Primarch shall return to them, once all the artifacts of Vulcan have been found, and with their return to their chapter, their retribution shall be at hand. The Salamander's gene seed bears a unique trait unlike many of those of the founding legions. Similar to the gene seed of the Alpha Legion and Space Wolves, the gene seed of the Salamanders was constructed by the Emperor for a unique purpose. The exact purpose has been lost to history, with only the Emperor likely aware of its design, but with the efforts of the Magos Biologists, a theoretical has been achieved. The determination from such study shows that the Salamander's gene seed is uncorrupted and stable in nature. Oddly, the Salamander's reaction time seem to be slower than other Astartes as a direct defect from their gene seed, though some within the Biologists regard this as a result of the chapter's homeworld's high gravity or psycho-conditioning, though this trait is mitigated once an 18th Legion Astartes is equipped with power armor. The radiation of Nocturne has also caused the Legion's characteristic jet black skin and bright red, burning eyes. A superficial characteristic, it nonetheless has proven useful during deployments to rebellious worlds in intimidating the populace and allowing for compliance without the use of force. Yet the Salamanders do bear positive traits as a result of their unique gene crafting, such as Firesight, the ability for the Sons of Vulcan to see infrared emissions of specific heat signatures without the aid of helmet visors, allowing for the Salamanders to implement thermic materials into their armor and vehicles, to enable the chapter to conduct midnight raids and skirmishes while still being able to clearly identify Allied combatants and vehicles, also allowing the chapter to use such materials to create tactical markings and communications that can otherwise not be seen by the naked eye. Alike to some of its contemporary legions, such as the Space Wolves and Blood Angels, recruitment amongst the 18th Legion is an arduous process, yielding few new members. Each company recruits solely from the citizenry of their clan. As such, each company comprises solely of fellow clan members, bolstering their bonds of kinship, of unrivaled loyalty and respect. From the ages of 6 to 8, prospective Nocturne recruits work within the forge of a Salamander's Space Marine. Monitored for signs of talent, the initiates will work for years under the tutelage of the Astartes, and should they show promise, be cross-examined by the chapter's apothecaries and chaplains. The chosen few undergo the first stages of organ implantation, receiving further procedures as they endure and accomplish the trials set before them. Molded in the image of their Primarch, the neophytes will be set tasks replicating the feats of their Genefather's youth, culminating in the trial of hunting a salamander, honoring the original contest between Vulcan and the Emperor of mankind. As a Codex Astartes compliant chapter, the Salamanders adhere to the doctrine of 10 companies, numbering 1,000 Space Marines. Equipped with armor and weaponry often crafted by their own hand, the Astartes of the Salamanders chapter are revered for their skill at the forge. Their war gear regularly adorned with symbols of scales, anvils, flames, and the iconic Salamander's Drakes of Nocturne. Their armor a bright green hue, often marked with a golden aquila on the chestplate. Their right pauldrons displaying their tactical designation, whether it be battle line, close support, fire support, veteran, or command staff. The battle and reserve companies adding a low Gothic numeral of their designated role to assign their squad. Their company is shown on the left shoulder plate, each company represented with the head of a large salamander with contrasting colors to identify their company as outlined by the Codex Astartes. Yet the 18th Legion retains its custom of dividing their number amongst 7 warrior houses akin to their original Legion structure. Each company inhabits one of the great settlements of Nocturne and comprises of 12 battle squads as standard, with the chapter master of the Salamanders directly overseeing and eschewing the need for a company captain by commanding the first company, the Fire Drakes. Comprised entirely of veteran warriors of the Legion and paragons of their values, the Fire Drakes are armed with Terminator armor, Sternguard veterans, and venerable dreadnoughts. Fielding no barracks, the first company reside within the chapter's fortress monastery on Nocturne's moon of Prometheus, directing training cadres, coordinating security protocols, and maintaining the honor guard of the chapter. The senior lieutenants of the chapter master undertake much of the chapter's leadership duties. The second company, the Defenders of Nocturne, aid the most vulnerable subjects of the Imperium. Often protecting Imperial citizenry, such as factory workers, the second company is often ready to aid allied Imperial forces, such as the Astra Militarum or Night Houses, boosting the morale of Imperium forces and undertaking leadership roles during deployment. The third company, the Pyroclasts, are synonymous with flame weaponry, rooting out entrenched enemy positions and purging heretics and Xenos alike with holy fire. The third company also bear the burden of cleansing populaces of corrupted sympathizers of Xenos, forever balanced on the knife edge of adhering to the Promethean creed and teachings of Vulcan. The fourth company, the Branded, serve the chapter as their bastion of faith. Closely tied to the chapter's reclusiasm, the members of the fourth company compulsively and ritualistically brand their flesh as a show of faith to their beliefs. Specializing in close quarters combat, the fourth company's large composition of chaplains fill the company's spirits with unmatched zealous fury. The fifth company, the Drake Hunters, are renowned for their ability to fell gargantuan Xenos and enemy fortifications. Respected hunters of Nocturne salamander drakes, the reserve company rarely fight as a consolidated company, rather supplying their members to bolster the 4 battle companies during protracted campaigns. Favoring mobile weapon platforms and static defenses, the 5th Company squad employs a large number of dreadnoughts and an extensive variety of gunships and attack crafts. The 6th Company, the Flame Hammers, are composed of fast-moving transports armed with heavy firepower, The first company to comprise Space Marines who have fulfilled their duty as Scout Marines, the Flamehammers enable the deployment and evacuation of squadrons within the thick of battle. And finally, the 7th Company, the Sons of Nocturne, consist of Vanguard and Scout Marines. Complying to the exacting standards of the Codex Astartes neophyte training regimes, the Sons of Nocturne spill their blood and prove their mettle in the name of their Primarch, so that one day they shall don the full plate armor and heraldry of their battle brothers, their reformation relatively new to the chapter, since its abandonment prior to the second founding of the Adeptus Astartes. Each Salamander Astartes rank is denoted by their helmet coloring, with sergeants painting a white skull, veteran sergeants a white skull with a crown of fire, lieutenants' helms show a white skull with a centered stripe, and captains bear more ornate helmets centered with the white skull. Their right pauldrons additionally denoting their rank. Specialized roles within the chapter also adhere to the guidance of the Codex Astartes. Chaplains paint their armor in the black of the Reclusiasm, and librarians paint their armor blue, both alike to their cousin chapters' customs, whilst the chapter's Tech Marines deviate slightly from their fellow Loyalist chapters by only painting their arms in the red heraldry of Mars whilst retaining the green armor of their chapter. Deviating further from the Codex Astartes, the chapter maintains not one, but 3 Masters of the Forge, enabling the chapter to effectively maintain their machinery, panoplies of war, weapons, artifacts, and honoring their heritage as Masters of the craft of weaponsmithing. The chapter master is given the utmost command of the chapter, yet maintains the Pantheon Council to provide support and discussion on the appointments of its members and campaigns fought across the stars. Their master of the fleet known as the Lord of the Burning Skies, commanding their battle barges and strike cruisers to enact the will of the Imperium on distant worlds and battlefields. For the Sons of Nocturne shall cleanse a path through the filth of the galaxy, their embers of their homeworld revivifying their morale and courageous charges into the dark corners of far-flung worlds.
Unless you are capable of enduring whatever hurt you can inflict, there will come a time when you will fail, and by failing you will have made useless the sacrifice of millions. We are the Salamanders, and we will endure, for no sacrifice made in the name of this great empire we seek to build shall be made in vain.
This has been a tale of the great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. Sons of Nocturne, I hope this transmission has stoked the flames within you. Yet there is another chapter on the horizon to elucidate. The secretive 20th Legion, known as the Alpha Legion.